Okay, so let's begin. So, Ankit, introduce yourself to us.
Sure, sir. Sir, my name is Ankit Sinha and I am resident of Aurangabad, Bihar. So I've done my earlier education from Aurangabad itself, and then I did my graduation from National Institute of Technology, Jamshedpur. So my branch was electrical and electronics engineering. And after my graduation, I went for job for 18 months in JRF Associates as Business Operations Associate. So post my job, I moved for full-time preparation for public services. So that was all.
Okay, so suppose we all come to Aurangabad and you are a host. So, take us through Aurangabad. Which places would you like us to visit?
So there are multiple places. So I would begin with my village area, which has actually been named after a tree, salai tree. So there are hills over there, and it has a very good temple built over on the hills. So Umga Hills is a good place to visit. Second, sir, we have a Sun Temple in Aurangabad, so we can visit over there. Third, sir, we have also a mosque which was built in the Aurangzeb era. So we can also go over there. So these are few places which we can visit.
Okay, can you tell us the neighboring district which shares boundary with Aurangabad?
In Bihar, on the east side we have Gaya, and on the west side we have Rohtas, and in the south we have boundary with the Palamu district of Jharkhand, and in the north we have Arwad.
Good, good. So, can you tell us few GI tags of Bihar also?
Yes, sir. So Maghi Pan, Jadalu Mango, Bhagalpuri Silk. So these are few. Shahi
Okay,
Lychee is also one of them.
okay. So, a few years back, the government has imposed ban on liquor. Okay, don't you think it is a loss to the revenue of the government, and also it infringes the rights of the people over here? Okay, so what are your views on that?
So when the ban was introduced in Bihar, the idea was to curb the incidence of rising domestic violence, and as we also see that the per capita income of Bihar is one third of the national average, and that too of the poor section was going into liquor. So that was our idea to, the basic objective behind was to curb these trends. But over the years, we are seeing that the liquor ban has led to the reduced revenue flow to the government, and we are also seeing that the implementation has not been very vigorous. We see the inflow from the neighboring states. So yes, sir, there are, but still we have some social benefits arising from that ban. So in the long term, sir, we will have to get rid of the ban. So I think, in my opinion, we will have to a more proper awareness campaign for the liquor. So that would be our long term policy.
Okay, okay. So, can you tell us any river which passes through your district?
So there are two major rivers. The first one is the Son, which is a peninsular river, and the second one is Punpun.
Okay, good. So, are you aware that this forest subject it was under the state list? Okay,
Yes, sir.
but we transferred it into the concurrent list. So, can you tell us the amendment and the year in which it was done?
So I'm not really sure, but I want to take an informed guess if you allow.
Okay, go ahead.
So 42nd amendment, it would be when five subjects were transferred from state list to the concurrent list.
Okay, 42nd amendment in 1970s.
1976. Yes.
Yes, it was transferred. So, what was the rationale behind this move, and has it benefited after that? The transfer of the list from state to concurrent, has it benefited?
The rationale was to, of course, to conserve the forest, because what we saw in 60s and 70s that there was large scale diversification of diversion of forest land towards the developmental purpose. So uh, I mean, our objective was to reverse that trend, and what we saw post 1976 that we passed Forest Conservation Act 2, which actually in 1980, which actually put a curb on incessant transfer of land of the forest. So in some ways, it has benefited.
Okay. So, are you aware there is a Aurangabad city in Maharashtra also,
Yes, sir.
and there is this structure which is a replica of Taj Mahal. Can you name it?
So, uh, it is called Bibi Ka Maqbara.
Okay, and it
So
was
it was built.
designed by, built by, yes, by whom?
So I'm not sure if it was Aurangzeb or his son, sir. So
Okay, no problem. So there is also Ajanta and Ellora caves nearby. Okay, so can you tell us three differences between Ajanta caves and Ellora caves?
the Ellora caves, Ajanta caves, they were prior to the Ellora caves, so they were developed earlier, and they mostly houses Buddhist caves. And in Ellora, we see the caves belonging to most of the faiths like Shaivism and Buddhism and Jainism. Second, sir, the sophistication which we see in Ellora caves is larger than the Ajanta cave. We see multi-pillared caves there. So, and third, sir, I'm not able to recall.
Okay, no problem. So you like to hear the old songs. Okay,
Right.
which one is your favorite singer?
So I hear most of them, but Mukesh should be my favorite.
Okay, very good. So recently we saw the decline in the Bollywood music, the era of remixes. Okay, they also tried to remake the old songs, and they just disturbed that song. Okay, the era of these new singers, they are not so good. So what do you think are the reasons for the decline in the music industry?
So if we try to analyze the song, then a good song has three to four important constituents. First, we begin with the soulful lyrics, and then we have a voice of the singer. Third is the composer. So these three are important constituents. What we see in the recent era that music has taken over with the onset of digital notes and other instruments. So what we see that there has been disproportionate focus over the music, and lyrics has somewhere taken the back seat. So I guess that is one of the major reason that we don't see today that much kind of fan following which we had in the past. So if we have the right proportion of all the constituents, again it we will have in this era too. So
And currently, who is your favorite musician,
musician,
singer? I mean.
sir, I hardly sing new songs. Hear new songs. So, but if I have to take Arjit Singh would be good, sir, because he sings with a lot of devotion.
Okay, good, good, Ankit. That's all from my side. Now over to you, Mayank sir.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, if Abhishek sir, Advait sir want to take over here for the second.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Ankit.
sir.
How was your
It
morning?
was nice, sir.
Okay. So you have done your graduation in electronics,
Elect-
right? Electrical and
right,
electronics. Can you tell me what is the national policy of electronics?
sir.
Name two, three provision, important provision.
So I can remember about the national policy which was introduced, draft national policy actually, sir. So which was introduced
Okay,
in
okay. Tell me the
2019.
draft.
So the idea was to make India an important manufacturing hub of ESDM manufacturing. The second was we have to also uh, achieve the objective of $400 billion of export from India. So these are and sir, to create again large scale employment in the sector. So these are three objectives I can remember.
Do you think India would be able to achieve 400 billion target?
So we had a COVID shock in between. So it will be slightly tough, but we have taken progressive steps in the area. So for
How,
example,
how, tell me some strategy according to you through which we can achieve this.
the important sectors related to electronics have been included in priority sector. The PLI scheme, sir, production linked incentive scheme. And then, sir, what we see that rapid inflow of investment has been there. So we saw starting of the Samsung plant in Noida, and similarly, we are also witnessing the assemblies of different mobile phones, for example.
Okay, but that is mostly on the assembly side. Uh, can we develop, since we have a shortage of raw material, can we develop hardware-based industry in electronics?
So the pace has been slow, that's for sure. But for example, recently we also launched the semiconductor mission. So all these industries have to move in tandem for fast production of the electronic devices. So of course, the pace has been slow, but we are moving in the right direction.
Can you tell me what is an operational amplifier?
So I'm not able to recall.
Okay, what is modulation? And tell me the difference between amplitude modulation and frequency modulation.
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
I'm not able.
Since you are from Bihar, can you tell me what is the forest area and forest cover of Bihar?
So the forest area is around 7%.
Sure. Are you sure? Or you are just guessing?
No, sir, I'm not guessing, but it is if we add the forest cover, I mean the tree cover, it goes beyond the 7%, 7.5, and close to 8%. But overall, sir, it's around 7%.
Actually, forest area, according to my knowledge, it is 7.3% and forest cover is 7.75%.
Okay, sir.
See that since Bihar is non-industrialized, there is lack of industry. Despite this, the forest area and forest cover is so low. Why? Why do you think this scenario exists?
So the basic fact that we have large Gangetic plains in the region, so the most of the land is used for the agricultural purpose.
Can you repeat? You are not audible.
So the state has most of the state land belongs to the Gangetic plains, so they are used for agricultural purpose. So land is scarce in Bihar, so it's difficult to increase the forest cover by reclaiming the agricultural land. So that is the major challenge which Bihar faces in increasing its forest cover.
So, but we need to increase the forest area. What strategy you would adopt to increase the forest area and forest cover?
So we have actually identified important thrust areas in forestry. For example, we can improve the quality of whatever forest we have. Second, we can stop the exploitation of the forest which we have in Kamur, in Rohtas, and West Chambar. Third, sir, we can employ the agroforestry practices, social forestry practices. For example, sir, the step which, for example, this area beside the state highway, they have been recognized as protected land, and the plantation is going on. So these could be some important steps.
Okay, you talked about agroforestry. Agroforestry, social forestry was not so much successful in Bihar. Why? Why this exists?
There are multiple reasons. For example, the hand-holding services is, the hand-holding from the part of state is low. So we are not able to generate a large-scale awareness among the farmers to go about agroforestry. And then so there is lack of persistence. For example, once we provide them the crops and the saplings, then there is no monitoring from side of the state. So these are some problems. So the lack of demonstration effect would be the primary reason that agroforestry could not take.
Okay, my last question to you. What, according to you, is the biggest problem of Bihar?
Uh, the thing that agriculture is our important competitive. We have competitive advantage in this, but we have not been able to commercialize it, and that's why we face large scale brain drain from Bihar. People out migrating, especially the youth. So this is the biggest problem we have.
So, according to you, agriculture is the biggest problem of Bihar.
Not agriculture, we have not been able to commercialize it. For example, if we have a good production of lychee, good production of foxnut, and other important crops which actually happen in Bihar and nowhere else, so ideally we should have commercialized it, in a better way. So focusing more on a farmers producer organization, and then the other agro based industry would have been a good step. So we are currently doing this, but we need to do it better. So
Okay, thank you. That's all from my side. Over to you, Advait. Advait sir.
Yeah, good morning, Nikhil.
good morning,
So,
sir.
I have a query. In your 12th subjects, you have mentioned non-Hindi and English is written twice, like Alt English and another English.
Yes, sir. So, sir, there was provision for, the alternative English and then the normal English. The normal English was marked for full marks for 100 and the alternative was for 50 marks. So,
O- Okay, so you opted for English in both the cases.
basically, the people who used to, who chose English as a medium of writing answers, they were given that opportunity.
Okay, and what is the subject non-Hindi then?
Non-Hindi actually, sir, it is RB non-Hindi, Rashtra Bhasha. So, non-Hindi basically indicates that my background is non-Hindi,
Okay,
but the subject is Hindi, sir.
okay. So fine then. And you have worked at ZS Associates. So tell us more about your work experience. What was your role?
The GS Associates is basically a sales and marketing firm which provides business consulting basically to its clients, which are mostly pharma companies. So I was working as business operations associate, and primarily my job was to analyze the monthly data publications of my client. So we used to analyze their monthly data and tell them about the trends in the sales volume and how the representatives, the field reps were performing. So these are the important job responsibilities of mine.
Okay, so uh, why do we need a data protection bill right now?
We need it because we have to protect the privacy of the people. So it's and and we what we see that the SV SV Sri Krishna committee, which recommended for a strong data protection law, it has not been. It has been introduced in the parliament, but it has not been still passed. So so in that case, we need the law for the better protection of data. Currently, we don't have anyone. So
Okay, like during the Aadhaar debate, there was this argument between data protection privacy versus the benefits, the rights they are getting. So what's your take on this debate?
sir, could you please repeat the question once again?
Like during the Aadhaar argument when it was presented before the Supreme Court. So this debate has been continuously going on between the privacy of the individuals versus the benefits they are getting. So what's your take on this debate?
The privacy of the individual has to be protected because it is under Article 21, a right to life. But what we see that most of the people in India, they live below the below uh, standard of living is not very good. So the state has a responsibility to improve their to improve their standard of living. So in that regard, we use Aadhaar data for better targeting of the people. So these two rights often conflict each other, but we have slightly emphasized the community rights, the rights of most of the people.
Okay, and you have worked as a like your degree is in electrical and electronics. So can you tell us what are the reasons behind the fluctuations in frequency in the power grid?
So the fluctuation in frequency can arise if the generator, the synchronous generator, which actually works in the thermal power plant, if it has some problem and it is not able to achieve the speed of the proper speed. Second, so if we have large fluctuation in the demand side, so if there is fluctuation between them, then also the frequency sometimes changes.
Okay, and how do you address it when there are the fluctuations related to demand and supply and frequency changes are taking place?
So well, I have to read on this. I'm not sure how to express it.
And what is a smart grid?
So a smart grid basically means that we are using latest technology and sensors to analyze that what could be the power demand in the area and how do we have to operate our grid in that regard. So, for instance, with the integration of renewables, the demand for smart grids have also increased because renewables generally provide variable power. So, smart grid basically means the proper integration of sensors and all this.
And how do you address this problem of fluctuation with respect to renewable energy?
So the idea is that we have a peak demand and then we have a base demand. So the base demand are generally addressed by the thermal power plants, and the peak demand, which is generally variable. So that we try to cater with the renewable sources. So that is the the strategy of beating.
Okay, and what are the problems associated with renewable energy sector right now?
The majority of the grids in India, they are not able to absorb it because they have to be converted to smart grid first. Second, sir, the fluctuation which we get from the weather condition. That is the second problem. Third, we do not have the large scale fabrication manufacturing capacity. So we are importing that from other countries. So these are challenges for the adoption of renewable sources.
Okay, like you in your hobby, you mentioned Mahabharata. So, which is your favorite character in Mahabharata?
So every character have their fair share of problems and strength. So even if I have to choose one, then I would go with Draupadi, sir. So the reason behind would be that we have seen many warriors in many epics, but she was the lone woman who was very vocal about her rights. So
Okay, and as a civil servant, what are the qualities you value? What are the qualities you cherish the most?
so the first one would be empathy, sir, because what we see that at the ground level there is a massive disconnect between the bureaucrats and the people. So people often are reluctant to reach out to them. So the empathy would be the first one. If the civil servant demonstrate that value, then the people, they come up with their problems. Second, integrity would be the second value which I cherish.
And what values you draw from Mahabharata in your own personal life, something which you have adopted?
So persistence would be one. So if there is a objective or a goal which I have chosen for me, then I persist with that. Try to make my decision right. Second, the ability to say no to instant gratification. So that is the second value which I derive from Harvard.
But then we do need some recognition in a life. Like if you are also working as an officer and you are being recognized, so this instant gratification can be a motivating factor also.
The means has to be right, sir. Often we compromise our means for the end. So if that is the case, our means. At least we should ensure that the integrity part is not getting compromised for the end. So
Because your firm was dealing with pharma industry and lots of ethical issues or moral issues have been raised with respect to pharma industry, especially in the last few years. Can you elaborate on it?
the first one which I can remember is that at that most of the rare disease for which they are not willing to produce the drugs. So that is the first moral issue because any development of pharmaceuticals or drugs takes a lot of time and money investment and what we see that we do not have much demand for the rare disease. So there is a conflict between the the interest of the people who are suffering from the disease and the profitability and feasibility of the pharma company. Second, they have some time in which they try to monetize the sales of their drug, and after that, the the patent expires and the generic medicines hit. So, but they try to get. They try to pass by it by introducing some nominal changes, and then the evergreening of patents issue arises. So, these are two ethical issues which in the pharma company.
Have you heard of the testing, the issues with respect to non-authorized testing?
The clinical trials and the all other trials, there are various stringent conditions. So if a company is deliberately, trying to bypass this, then it's, first of all, it's very difficult to do so. And if someone is doing it, then we should take steps for that.
Okay. So, what can be the solution for you, especially regarding this pharmaceutical industry and its ethical concerns?
The state has to intervene, of course, because we have seen that the Indian government also came up with a policy with on rare disease. So in that regard, the state can help help the companies. Second, sir, that there has to be a proper. There is proper timeline, but it's just that the pharma companies want their patents to elongate. To elongate further. So I, it's very difficult. I'm not. So the solution, I have not very much a strong solution for the second part. So
Okay, like doctors have this code of conduct. They have this professional code of ethics. So I think something similar in the pharmaceutical industry and the appliance industry could also be introduced. Like there was this episode of Johnson and Johnson where they provided faulty implants to the consumers.
yes,
So to
I
prevent such practices, we can have code of conduct and regular auditing could be done.
sure, sir.
Okay, now you're from Aurangabad, and Aurangabad is a part of that corridor. So can you tell us what are districts from Bihar which are part of that corridor?
So the entire the southern districts which have boundary with the Jharkhand, they are part of the Red Corridor. The Kaimur, Rohtas, Aurangabad, and Banka, Jamui, Gaya, Nawada. So all these districts are part of Red Corridor.
And like even after so many years, we are still not able to address this issue of red corridor. And former PM even called it the greatest challenge for India. So where have we been coming short, especially when it comes to addressing the red corridor issue?
Sir, sir, first of all, I must begin with that in Bihar we have actually, I mean, achieved some success in tackling the issue related to left-wing extremism, because the number of districts were decreased from 16 to 10. But the issue which we still see that the we are tackling with two important objectives. First, we are, I mean, improving our security, and second, we are focusing on developmental part. So in the tough terrains in the Chhattisgarh, in the Andhra Pradesh, and in Andhra and Telangana, so the issue has not been still met because the developmental part has not been so. I mean, they have not been implemented that vigorously, and somewhere the tough terrains actually hamper our progress. So the large scale developmental project they could not be carried out. Second, sir, the perception of the state, that is not very correct with the tribals. So if anything happen in the, I mean, if any violence happen in that area, so the youth are they can be easily attracted into the left wing extremism. So
Okay, so that's all from my side. Over to you, man, sir.
thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ajay sir. So like I'll wind up a bit quickly, right? So hello, Ankit. So like
Yes,
you
sir.
also have geology as an optional. Can you tell me what are the various layers and discontinuities inside the interior of the Earth?
Sir, the layers of the earth. First, we have the crust, mantle, and core, sir. And then the discontinuity, we have a Mohr discontinuity and Guttensberg discontinuity.
Like, can you tell me which discontinuities between which layers? Like moho is
Uh,
between what crust and mantle or what something like
I'm not completely sure, but I would want to go ahead with the guess. So
that.
if I
Okay,
can do so. So the between the crust and mantle, we have Mohr discontinuity, sir.
and
And so I'm not really sure. So I have
okay,
to
okay.
read up.
There are other also, right? Repeti, Gutenberg, right? Lehman. So do read about it. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
in terms of mountain, Vindhyan mountain ranges extend from Gujarat to Bihar, right?
Right, sir.
So are you aware in which district of Bihar is Vindhyan ranges present?
So Camur district uh, and the Rohtas district, sir.
Okay. So like, can you tell me what is the age of Vindhyas?
So the rocks which we found in the, I mean, the Vindhyan range, so they were made in Precambrian uh, age.
Okay. Are you sure about it?
Yes, I've read it. So,
Okay. Can you tell me what is the age of Earth?
so around 2.5 billion years.
Okay. So, all right. Like it is not 2.5, it is 4.6 billion year, right?
Sorry,
Okay.
sir. I think I need to work.
It's all right. Can you define what is a fault in geology?
So it comes under the fracture, and but we see that there is a movement in the rocks, I mean, around that fracture. So fault is basically a fracture. around it there is a considerable movement around.
All right, all right. So okay, uh, Ankit, like your hobby is reading about Mahabharata. So like, can you tell me an instance from Indian mythology where you can depict the importance of anger, right? Like I want to ask an instance where you can tell me an example where anger turned into a blessing, and an example where tolerance turned into a sin.
So both of them could be tied to the instance when Draupadi was being disrobed. So the tolerance was that most of the warriors of the time they they were not able to take the steps and they chose to remain silent, and it was a major setback for for our Indian society as well. And the anger in the same episode, so what we see that Bhima he got angry, and it took the pledge of killing all the 100 brothers uh, of Kauravas. So that we see in the war itself that the good was actually triumphing over evil. So after the killings of all the Kaurav brothers.
Okay. All right. Like you were like maybe in Advait's or Rishab's questions, you were talking about for you, means are more important than ends, right?
So both are important. One should not be completely at the sake of another. So we need moderation. Sir.
Okay. So like if some wrong is being done, like for to achieve a just like for I'll ask you from the example of Mahabharata. So like there were instances of deception from the side of Pandavas, right? So,
Yes,
like,
sir.
do you think it was unethical on the part of Pandavas or Lord Krishna to undertake those deceptions?
No, sir. It was not. Because it was for the greater good, and and the greater good was to have a better society, better rules. So I do not consider it unethical.
Okay. So, like there has been talk in climate meetings about 1.5 degrees and 2.5 degree, right, or 2 degree change in the temperature, global temperature, right? So, can you very briefly tell us what is the difference between 1.5 degree and 2 degree increase in the temperature? What could be the different manifestation of it?
Earlier we had set the target of 2 degree, but what we are witnessing that even the breach in 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature would bring, the frequency of the disasters would increase. For example, we are witnessing increasing number of cyclones per year, and there will be heat waves on the earth, and we are also witnessing that in the current season too. And then there will be large scale decline in the water table. So these are, the major disruptions which we'll face even if we breach the 1.5 degree.
Okay. So, like, have you heard about ecosystem services?
Yes, so the benefits which we derive from the ecosystem. Uh,
And what are service to ecosystem?
the ecosystem services are the services which actually ecosystem providers, for example, nutrient recycling, and then the purification of water, air.
No, there is. I asked you services to ecosystem, right? Or have you
So
heard about
I'm not.
payment to ecosystem, something like that?
Yes, it's actually a strategy to protect the environment. So basically, the services which we derive from the ecosystem, we need to provide a payment for it. For example, sir, a proposal for this was actually implemented in Himachal Pradesh. So where the downstream communities, they were providing payment for the keeping the water clean, and the upstream communities to, protect the and conserve the environment in the upper Himalayan range.
Okay. Have you heard about tragedy of commons?
Yes, sir, I have heard about it.
What it is?
So the tragedy of common means that since there are many assets or the natural resources where we do not have the individual rights. So what people do that they try to derive benefits on it, and in the course of time, the ability of that natural resource that declines. For example, over the case of overfishing, so in the high seas. So these are, I mean, it is one of the example of tragedy of commons.
Okay. Have you heard about global commons?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me three example of global commons?
So the high seas, I mean, the area beyond the exclusive economic zone would be the first example. The second one is the Arctic and the Antarctic, sir. And third would be outer space.
Okay. Okay, Ankit. So, like, there has always been a debate about development and environment, right? For example, in case of mining, the environment is getting degraded. So, how to balance this dichotomy? How to go ahead with it?
So we have to manage both the demand and supply side, because if we even take the example of mining, mining is important for our national interest and most of our economy depends on it. So it's important. But at the same time, we have the instances of large scale degraded land which we can, I mean, improve, and we have taken certain steps and in our strategy of, I mean, reversing the trend of desertification. So, and then second, so we have to manage our demand side by improving our energy needs and the improving the efficiency of energy uses in our economy. So that could be the other measure. Third, sir, we can, for example, the recent IPCC report which was released, it pointed out many steps which we can be taken at individual level by which our environment can be improved. So these are some of the steps we can take to balance.
Okay. So, Ankit, my last question to you is that, like, in especially in the part which we live, the northern India part, right, or parts of our country, there is an issue of spitting in the public, right? Like it is also somebody in the parliament termed it as the great Indian problem, right? So one of the reason for this spitting maybe is this habit of consumption of pan gutka and all this thing, right? So I if we make you a head of a district to eliminate spitting in public, right, what will be your strategy and course of action to undertake this problem, right?
So we first have to understand the nature of the problem. It's a social problem. The people actually wants to keep their houses clean, but not the streets and the roads. So if we start first the awareness among the people that spitting actually hurts them in the long run by, the spread of with the spread of disease. So it could be one strategy, but it will take a time. Second, sir, if we have, in the short run, at some places, if we have, the dustbins at the regular interval, then people can actually spit over there. For example, we have smoking areas, so many smoking areas. So on that lines, we can also have some dustbins for them too. At some of the buildings. So this could be some steps which we can take.
So okay. So the last question I would like to end the interview with is, Ankit, what is in your opinion is the biggest problem the environment today is facing? Apart from like climate change, it is a very bigger domain. Any specific thing which you can think of?
So, so at the level, we need to redefine our developmental agenda. So development cannot be at the expense of the environment. So for example, we what we see that often that for development we have to emulate the trajectory of the Europeans and the Americans. So that we need to avoid, sir. And in some sense, we have actually appreciated the difference that if we start consuming like Americans and Europeans, then the entire world will be flooded. So that I think, so we need at the individual level we have to define that what actually development is, and it has to be in sync with the environmental conservation. It has to be sustainable. So that challenge of uh, awareness is the biggest challenge.
All right. So I think it was good talking to you. If anybody else want to ask some questions, they can ask. Otherwise, we'll end the mock here.
Okay, Ankit, can you tell us who is the governor of Bihar right now?
So Fagu Chauhan, the governor,
Okay,
Honorable Fagu.
okay. And what is the difference between this herb, shrub, and tree with examples?
So herbs, they generally do not grow above 1 meter in length. They have green wood, and such shrubs they normally do not cross the 6 meter height, sir, and they have wood, but the girth is very small. So the trees they generally they cross the 6 meter height, so they have good. They have crown, and the branching starts after the bole ends. So that is the difference. So the difference and the examples would be the the teak, the Indian rosewood and the sagwan tree, they come in the, I mean, definition of tree. In shrubs, there are species like the Julia prosposis is that.
Okay. And what is this concept of edge effect?
So at the boundary of two different ecosystems, so we see tremendous increase in the biodiversity level. So that is termed as edge effects. For example, the mangrove areas, so they are
Okay.
actually at the boundary of coastal, I mean, the marine and the terrestrial ecosystem.
Okay, Ankit. Your interview is over right now. You can leave the call and we will call you back. Okay. For
Okay.
the
Thank you,
feedback.
everyone, sir.